We also just heard from Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin one day after President Trump's national address on election fraud. Now, this Secretary Mullin claims his department found tens of thousands of non-citizens on U.S. voter rolls.
So first of all, Department of Homeland Security, we've identified 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in just 4 states. Mind you, we have 46 other states. And just 4 states, we've identified 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in California and Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Nevada. We also worked with proactive states to identify 28,000 non-citizens on their voter rolls, plus 400,000 individuals that are still registered to vote that are deceased.
Let's go live now to CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Sganga, who was at that news conference. He joins us live outside the White House. Nicole, thank you for your time. So talk to us about these claims being made, and are there any details to actually confirm them?
Yeah, Mugo, it's good to be with you. These are, in essence, leads, but there is no information at this time indicating that any of these, quote, registered non-citizens actually voted, nor is there confirmation that this is accurate. I want to try to explain what DHS is saying about these 2 buckets of voters, right? So for that figure about the cooperative states, the 28,000, these are 25 states that uploaded about 68 million voter records into what's called the SAVE system. And that system can compare identifying information, so think name, date of birth, with federal immigration and citizenship records, and then return records that warrant further review. But the SAVE system, which is run by USCIS, the agency themselves says that they don't make the final call on voter eligibility decisions, and agencies can't rely on it as a result to determine if someone voted who shouldn't have voted. I also just want to point out that if you take 28,000 out of 68 million, it is about 0.04% of voters. Now, for that larger figure that we heard about from the 4 non-cooperative states, that 250,000 figure, DHS relied on record matching between voter information and commercially available databases. That is a far less reliable process. Commercial records, they can be old, they can be incomplete, they can be attached to the wrong person, they can fail to reflect if someone maybe was a non-citizen and then they were a naturalized citizen and then they voted. So, reporting on SAVE's rollout has already documented eligible citizens being incorrectly flagged, including cases that the Department of Homeland Security later had to correct. So until we hear about prosecutions, until we hear about charges, it remains to be seen exactly what the Department of Homeland Security has sorted through here, Mugo.
So, Nicole, what else stood out to you from what you heard today?
Well, I do think it's very interesting that CISA, which is our nation's top cybersecurity agency, is going to issue a report on voter integrity in about 30 days. It's the first time that I have heard Secretary Markwayne Mullin mention CISA's work, and it's really worth pointing out that CISA itself lost about nearly 1/3 of its workforce, nearly 1,000 personnel since the Trump administration began. They've left, they've been removed. The budget in 2026 is about 20% lower than the budget was back in 2025. And in addition to that, CISA, which usually provides federal support to election infrastructure information sharing and analysis center. This is the neighborhood watch that sort of communicates any election threats between states and the federal government. There's no longer any federal support there. So, if I had another question to ask the DHS secretary, it would be, how is it that we are going to crack down on alleged foreign intervention in our elections without having these apparatuses in place? But I'll be very interested in seeing what that CISA report indicates 30 days from now, Mugo. And I do want to play one more bite from the DHS secretary.
Before and after the election, we will scrub all election records looking for illegal aliens and those who are ineligible to vote, including those that somehow voted, yet they were deceased. We will be proactively looking at early voting, and then after post-election, we will continue to scrub all those that did vote.
Yeah, as for that scrubbing, I mean, a big question that I have moving forward is what will the legal recourse be for an individual that finds that they might have been scrubbed from voter registration? Will they be able to challenge those findings from the Department of Homeland Security if, in fact, they are a naturalized citizen or they are allowed to vote? So that remains to be seen, but very interesting that the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security used the word scrubbing there, Mugo.
Yeah, and Nicole, the Justice Department has sued multiple states over voter registration data, right? So can you remind us about how that ultimately played out?
I'm sorry, Mugo, say it one more time.
Yeah. Of course, we know the Justice Department has sued multiple states over voter registration data. And can you remind us about how that played out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw lawsuits in Nevada, we saw lawsuits in Michigan, we saw lawsuits in Georgia, and there was no evidence of widespread election fraud. In certain cases, there were maybe a handful of, misalignments in terms of individuals who there was like a mix-up with mail-in voting, or individuals who, might have voted and then were deceased after the fact. But when I tell you it was a negligible number in comparison to the larger election, and actually did not change the outcome at all. And Mugo, if I can just add, I think one of the most interesting revelations from the president's address last night and from the briefings we got from White House officials was the admission that no votes were changed during the 2020, 2022, or 2024 elections. So a really important point there amid all of the information that we received.
Yeah, very important point. Nicole Sganga at the White House for us today. Thank you so much for your time.